Everybody ready? I'm going to call are we getting recorded? Okay, I'm going to call the meeting of the Sewer Authority of Midcoastside for May 13th, 2024 to order at 7 p.m. Could we have a roll call, please?
Director Clark.
Present.
Director Penrose.
I'm her alternate, and I'll be here.
Director Rohrbach is here.
Okay, good. Director Boyd is alternating for Kathleen Slater-Carter.
Yeah.
Director Ruddock.
Here.
Director Dicker via Zoom.
Here.
Chair Dye.
Here. Right. Moving on to public comment. Do we have any comment from members of the public for items not on the agenda? Oh, Kitchen, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, I just wanted to inform everyone that Thai Fan is alternating for Jeremy for the open session and part of the closed session. Jeremy would, however, come in at the latter part of the closed session.
Thank you. Anything else? Anyone else want to speak? All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull anything from the consent agenda?
I have one comment on consent. I think we could address and then vote on the package. One word on page 7, the minutes from the previous meeting under 5 general manager's report. It says ... Power is out at the Montar pump station. SAM crew is on site and the power is suspected to be restored at 2 a.m. I think expected is probably the word.
Yes.
Okay, we'll do. We'll change the minutes to depict that. Thank you very much.
I have a question on the disbursements.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
There is in the Umpqua visa statement, there is mention of a $1,700 drone. What are we using that drone for?
We intended using the drone, in confined space requirements where a person cannot get into the place to inspect it. For example, the digester cleaning project, which we did. We have a small door there and people entered it to do the inspection. We thought now and as well as for future, we could use the drone to go inside and capture all the requirements, and then we could probably connect it to the computer and download and examine it more closely.
I see. Thank you.
Did it work? Did you try it and did it work? It seems, I don't think of a drone as doing internal stuff like that, but did it work? Was it?
It is expected to. We are in the process of familiarizing with the drone. We got it a bit late, so we've still not found that out.
Let us know, because it would be very nice to have an alternative to confined space inspections. So can you update us when you get it working as to how it works?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we will definitely do that, and we'll try to send pictures and share it to the board and the public.
Great, thanks.
Great.
Anything else on the consent agenda? Can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Can we have a roll call, please?
Director Clark.
Aye.
Director Radback.
Yes.
Director Boyd.
Aye.
Director Ruddock.
Aye.
Director Decker.
Aye.
Chair Dye.
Aye. All right. Thank you. Moving on to regular business, adopt resolution in opposition to, should be to initiative number 21-0042A1, the taxpayer, quote, the Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act, which may be on the ballot. Director Rick.
Yeah, so the City Council of Half Moon Bay has already adopted a resolution opposing this. And we had a presentation from the Peninsula League of Cities, which is actively opposing this bill.
Yeah. Great. Well, I think we have a presentation from our attorneys on this. Is this true?
No, I don't think so. We are not.
I don't think it's necessary.
Happy to give a brief overview if you'd like.
Yeah,
Just a brief, I think. I think we need to have a quick explanation of what this is and why we're opposing it.
Yeah, sure. Before we hand it over to Thai to explain it further, I just want to mention that this item was brought to the board on the request of Director Slater Carter, who had brought it up in our previous board meeting, and the board approved that we bring it to this meeting today. Although the initiative in 1935 probably will not directly affect SAM's fees as a joint powers authority that receives funding from the member agencies, it will have direct impact on all of SAM's member agencies, making it significantly difficult for them to raise revenues, and thereby it would negatively affect SAM's operations and the ability to deliver any core services. So with this, I will hand it over to Ty to explain the 1935 initiative 1935 a bit further. Go ahead, Ty. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was a little
Hi,
long, but quick. Yeah, go ahead.
So just a quick rundown, because this is quite a detailed ballot initiative. It was brought by a number of business owners, primarily the Business Roundtable, and its goals is to create a higher threshold for local agencies and the state to approve any types of fees and taxes. In fact, the initiative actually redefines most fees that we normally consider fees to be considered a tax. Initiative 1935 was originally titled Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act, but has now been given the official title by the Attorney General's Office as the Limits Ability of Voters and State and Local Governments to Raise Revenues for Government Services Initiative
Good.
Constitutional Amendment.
Question
It's quite a long title. But what it really does is that for basically any type of local agency looking to approve a new fee, say, for example, a copying fee, a water fee, sanitation fee, historically, we could do it by determining whether the amount is reasonable, which can include a market-based approach, right? However, now we have to approve it based on actual costs. There's a higher threshold for local agencies to determine what is actual cost and make those findings and to approve it. The definition of actual costs in the initiative is the minimum amount necessary to provide the service or the fee. Now, it does also, I think a lot of local agencies are also recognizing that this initiative or this ballot measure is retroactive. So fees that were already adopted may have to be readopted via ordinance or the like with this new kind of analysis, the findings that is the actual cost. At this time, the California Special Districts Association, the League of California Cities, and a number of other local government agency organizations have come out in opposing this item. On May 9th, that was last Thursday, or must have been May 8th, the California Supreme Court heard a hearing on this item. It's being challenged by Governor Newsom, and they have until June 27th to make a decision on whether they can pull this from the ballot for being determined to be unconstitutional. That's the last day that the Secretary of State has to ballot measures that would be on for the November 2024 election. Based on reporting of the hearing and the arguments, it seems that the court is split at this time because there's a long history of courts allowing ballot initiatives to go forward, letting the taxpayers decide, and then if it goes, if it passes, then they'll deal with any type of legal ramifications, arguments therein, or if it doesn't pass, then the issue is moot. So that's where we're at right now. The resolution would essentially allow SAM to take a position in opposition to the initiative. It is completely at your discretion, and it would be sent to likely the California Special Districts Association and any other agencies that might find it useful.
Thank you. Board member want to comment? Anyone want to comment?
I think this thing is really crazy. It's insane. It's an attack on the very basis of government. And this retroactive thing, taxes and fees now, if it passes, fees will be also called taxes, after January 2022 are void. That means every agency will have to go into reserves immediately
Give back money?
and give back money. Maybe. Yeah,
And shut down a lot of the things that they're funding with that money.
right. And also, I wanted to ask council if I didn't see anything about reserves, and the definitions that are in here are really scary. The absolute minimum that it takes to run whatever your services are is that's all that's allowed. What does that mean for having reserve funds? Because those aren't needed right now. Can that mean that the reserve funds will have to be either all spent or paid back to the ratepayers?
Or unusable, maybe?
Or unuseful? Yeah. Reserves are actually good for ratepayers because every agency invests them and they make a little money on it. And so that actually helps the ratepayers pay a little less.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is nuts.
So from my recollection, this isn't so much about how local agencies will use their general fund and what it means to put it into a reserve, right? That's an expenditure. It's really about how you gain revenue, right? How do you get additional dollars, whether it's from fees or taxes, and what that would look like. I think that unfortunately, despite all the definitions, it still is, it's frankly the Wild West of definitions for, like you said, is using it for a reserve, a valid purpose or an actual cost or finding that a local agency can make in order to impose some type of fee or tax. I don't actually think that this initiative gets that far or talks about that so much, but that's one of the gray areas that a lot of different agencies are concerned about. One thing I forgot to note, and I think our general manager did mention, is it, for Sam and other districts, potentially it might not be an immediate direct impact because, agencies pay into the JPA. However, whatever agencies are being affected, right, whatever they can bring in is going to affect how they can pay or contribute to the JPA. And that's where a lot of special districts are seeing the effects on them.
Seems like the definition of what the minimum costs are leave out a lot of environmental mitigation stuff, a lot of community relations stuff, a lot of really important things that we need to do. Anyone else from the board? Greg, did you want to comment? From the MCC.
Well, I think you all know my position on reserve deficits in public works. I believe we are way underfunded out here on the coast to the tune of over $100 million. So my question for the attorney about the costs, there are direct marginal costs of operating the business, like the chemicals and the staff. But there are also longer term direct costs, which, as Matt Clark just pointed out, are replenishing the assets. And those asset replenishments are the things that typically get overlooked with the use of balance sheet data that's 40 or 50 years old. So my question is, would this bill make it harder to charge a fee for the replenishment of those assets? Up in Montera, there's actually a water system reliability charge, which is asset-based, not volumetric. And so that's my question. I wonder if we're, if this gets passed, if we're seeing the death knell of the public works agencies. Was the question clear?
Yes, I think that just trying to find the unmute button. Essentially, the local agency is just going to have to make a finding and a strong argument in support of what that, that fee is going to mean. So, for example, if you do and this is going to ensure a lot of consultants who can do long-term projections will stay in business, because what you'll have to do is have a consultant, make those findings and do that research to say, okay, what is it going to mean for us to have this fee applied, because we have to have this replenishment in 10, 20, 30 years, whatnot. But again, this is untested, right? The state of California has already requires local agencies to make findings in support of any types of fees or taxes. And that's what we've been doing for many years. This aims to make it more difficult, but it doesn't give, there are no clear examples of what that would mean. And they don't take into account, like what you just said, about kind of long-term replenishment costs. I think it's going to be a test case for when there is a fee such as that, that an agency seeks to approve or pass. And if there is a local business or entity that seeks to challenge it, then that's where you would have to go into the research, the findings, the presentations, the conversation between the board and the public as to why this is necessary and the minimum amount necessary to pass or charge.
It's like a lawyer consultant protection act.
So it actually raise the cost of
Yeah.
doing all this stuff.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. All right, I think we're all on the same page here. So we have a motion to.
So move.
Okay. Any further discussion? Thank you, Greg. Can we have a roll call?
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Redback,
Yes.
Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Ruddock,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Yes.
Chair Dye.
Aye. Great. Thank you. Okay, general manager's report.
Yes, I just wanted to brief the board and public about a couple of things. First item is on the Princeton pump station. The pump station work is in progress and it's moving forward at a good pace. We are very happy with it. And as indicated earlier, we are hopeful that it will be done by July, August or so. And the next item I wanted to update is give a status update on the budget. The general budget and the collections budget was given to all the 3 member agencies. Montara Water and Sanitary District approved and adopted the resolution for both the collections as well as the general budget. Half Moon Bay, I believe, is going to take it up in their council meeting next week. That is June 21st. And
May.
May 21st. I'm so sorry. May 21st. And GCSD has approved the draft budget, but however, the resolution is not yet adopted, and they would be doing it soon in their next meeting. That's the status update on the budget. We will be discussing it a little more further in the closed session. And the next item is we have our lead operator, Aaron Gilbert, who had actually gone to the CWEA conference in Sacramento and has acquired a lot of knowledge and wanted to share this with the board members as well as the public. So over to you, Aaron. He's got a short PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you, Kishan. I really appreciate that. My name is Aaron Gilbert. I'm the lead operator here at SAM. And for anybody who's not familiar with the CWEA conference, every year they have a conference where they get together a bunch of water professionals and talk about things that have happened, new innovations, difficulties that they've overcome, and also laws and different things that are happening. So it's a really good opportunity for anybody who's in the water industry to connect, to learn, and to bring back new technology and new information. So I was blessed with the opportunity to go there this year, and so I'm going to be talking about that. One really neat thing is that they were able to work together with the Water Environment Federation and create a really good documentary. I wasn't aware of this until I went to the conference, but in 2020, they had a really good documentary about wastewater and how we really need to start using its resources that are there to help our world be better. If you get a chance, about an hour and a half, 2 hours, it's an amazing documentary. My wife and I just sat down and loved every minute of it. They also have a new documentary that was just released on Earth Day. Unfortunately, they're only doing private screenings for it. So I think if we were to set up an organization to watch it together, they might give us licensing. But I'm sure in the next couple of years, it will be available on Netflix. So who knows? One of the really cool things about CWEA is that there's a lot of information there. I tried to pare back the most imperative for our organization here. So please bear with me. I'm going to be going quickly. There's a lot of interesting stuff there. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. They talk about assets management, being able to understand what the risks are, understanding that emergencies are always more expensive than having to do the normal maintenance, and being able to remove the equipment that is old and outdated, not functioning at high efficiency, putting the brand new equipment in. One of the main questions they ask is how long should it last if maintenance is performed properly? They gave some key indicators and mean time to repair, preventative maintenance, root cause, a lot of different things. They basically said start simple and then build bigger. And this is a really cool organization, WIFIA, Water Infrastructure Financial Innovation Act. It's a branch of the EPA that receives $6 billion every year just to finance local governments in water infrastructure. I was dumbfounded by what they do. They're there to help us essentially do everything that we need to do that we can't afford to do. They give really low interest loans, long-term, flexible financing options. The basic limits are there for larger agencies. Up to 49% of the total loan that they would take out can be from WIFIA. Their minimum has to be at least $20 million. For a smaller agency, it's $5 million as the minimum that you have to make the loan with, and they can do up to 80%. She kind of hinted that maybe it might be more, but that's in the works. Officially, it's 80% of the total project for a small agency. Her suggestion was just go for the grants. If you have people in your organization or associated with your organization that can get grants or help you get grants, go for it. Get the free money. But if you can't, this is a great way to be able to add to your infrastructure and deal with issues that you have without killing the ratepayers that as you have to increase when you have to do infrastructure projects like that. Yes.
This deals with agencies that work on wastewater as well as drinking water and other water. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Next slide, please. Actually gives a great example of that. East County is a great case study. They did a total of $791 million infrastructure investment. 388 million came from a WIFIA loan, so it's 49% of the total dollar amount. With this job, what they did was they took sewage water, 16 million gallons of it every single day, and they produced drinkable water, potable water, which is absolutely fantastic. That is the future of wastewater. And so they were able to do this. They created 2,500 jobs while doing it. Really cool. They produced 30% of East County's drinking water now. Absolutely fantastic. I love this example. It's almost like a perfect example, and that's probably why they used it on the presentation. Another hot topic there was energy recovery, being able to maximize the amount of energy that's produced in the wastewater treatment. So not only are you looking at water efficiency, so you're not turning the pumps on as much using variable frequency drives, but also the really big topic right now is methane gas that's produced through the biosolids process. With anaerobic digestion, you produce methane gas, which we call biogas. With that gas, you can burn it and create energy. Typically, methane is much more potent for a greenhouse gas when it's released into the atmosphere. Currently, what we do is we burn it to heat up water to make sure our digesters stay at the right temperature so the bugs are happy and they eat as much as they can. So what they're talking about is being able to have a cogeneration system where you have that gas going into engines, producing electricity and producing the hot water that you need for your digesters, both. There's another new company called Mainspring Energy, very interesting situation. You burn the gas and it creates pistons that go back and forth. And they essentially create even more energy than what traditional turbines do. So interesting new technology coming out. They also talk about fog receiving stations, fat, oil, and grease. Being able to remove this from the system, the fog always hurts us when it gets here, always. However, it's really amazing stuff to put directly into a digester. And so if you have a system where you can remove the grease from the restaurants or whomever else has grease, and you can bring it to the plant separately, send it to the digester, the gas just spikes. I mean, those bugs love that stuff. I've actually found a couple articles talking about food waste. When I was at Silicon Valley Clean Water, I helped with that project to get a food waste project going. So food waste would come in, we'd separate it out from garbage, we'd send it to the digester, and you can just see the gas spike within an hour. I mean, it's really cool technology, simple stuff. And then also brewery waste, which is really interesting. You can have brewery waste come in and you can have it go into the digester, and also same thing, it helps create more gas, which means more energy that we can produce. Is there a payback? Yes, there's lots of things available. Having someone who is expert in that, of course, is best, other than us trying to fumble our way through it. However, it is there. There are stuff there. I always like a little pun. It's definitely there to help get the payback literally and figuratively. Next one, please. Another thought, again, they're pushing for grants. They're telling us if you don't have enough money, that's understandable. People are strapped for money right now. Look at grants. There's grants out there. Unfortunately, as a JPA, we cannot apply for grants. That's one of the bylaws I think we have, or law. I'm not sure exactly the details. However, the member agencies are able to. And so I guess this is a plea for us. Please look for grants for us to be able to increase and make our infrastructure better, our treatment process better. Funding, there's several agencies that are giving funding, including WIFIA, but we'll talk about the IRA and the Inflation Reduction Act, Clean Water State Revolving Fund. There's lots of things out there to help us with this funding. Kind of talk about some of those other things there. They said you're never done with funding opportunities. Always be on the lookout. There's always something available. And like with WIFIA, every year they're giving $6 billion more added to their fund. That's pretty awesome. Another really cool thing about going to these conferences, new technology. I'm a nerd. I love science. And this is one of the coolest things they've come up with in a while. Traditional anaerobic digestion is they have two sets of microbes, acid formers and methane formers. The methane formers are slow. They do a good job, but they're very slow. Well, this gentleman who presented, he made a type of a methanogen, which is one who produces methane, called C. bacilli. And it thrives at 75 degrees Celsius or 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, it's really, really hot. It's similar to a thermal vent down in the bottom of the ocean. But this thing eats roughage. It eats cellulose, which our bodies can't do. And neither can those bugs in the digestion, the traditional ones. But this can. So instead of removing 50 to 65 of the volatile solids that are in the digester, it's removing 75 to 80%. And they're fast growers. So just absolutely phenomenal technology. I love that stuff. With thermophilic anaerobic digestion, the sludge dewater is better. So it means you remove more water, you have to pay less for the water, you get lighter cake as you're going out, and you don't have to pay as much per weight, and you send it out. The other nice thing about it is that it creates Class A biosolid, which with SB 1383, I think that's the right number, that's the one telling us that we can no longer send organics to the landfill. And so by doing this, you now have an amazing fertilizer to add on top of crops.
About PFAS.
So PFAS, that's a great question. What they found is that with a lot of CASA actually talks about this later, which I'd really love for CASA to come in and give us a presentation about PFAS.
That'd be great.
The gentleman there, his name's Greg, he talked about how PFAS is really not an issue.
Okay, good.
Unless you have a contaminant in your system, like a paper mill or something like that, it really doesn't affect you. They also showed that PFAS doesn't transfer from sludge to the groundwater. And so there's several studies that are going to continue to go on about this. But yes, I mean, PFAS is very much a hot topic. The other interesting thing they found is if you go through a system called a biochar system, you take the sludge and you put it through a heater, but not through flame. And the heater goes up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, and it removes all water and almost all organics. And part of that process is that it destroys the PFAS. And so there are ways to treat it. Unfortunately, as everyone knows, it costs money. But yes, there are ways to deal with this. Great question, man. Yeah. Really good question. Here's a great case study in Denmark. They put this C. bacillus energy producing bacterium to work. And now that facility is a power positive facility. They make all the energy they need for their facility and then some. So they add to the grid. I just think that's phenomenal. That's such a cool investment. And the whole idea was that they did this to make sure that they could help the environment, help the community be more independent and self-sustaining. Really cool technology. So, of course, greenhouse gas reduction, another hot topic, and fleet electrification. Kind of interesting, PG&E doesn't burn any coal. I thought they would still be burning coal, but they don't, which is really cool. A lot of their energy comes from nuclear. There's other things that we're talking about here. But with that being said, we need, if we want to understand our greenhouse gas emissions, we've got to understand where it's coming from, how we're using it, and then we look at our fleet. We look at the cars that we're using, how it's being produced, how are we using there. We can go and get different ideas on how it's working for us by talking to our lawyers and what the actual laws are. And essentially what's going to happen, Kelly, the next one, please. You're going to have a point where you have to replace what you have in service. There are some special helps for agencies like us because we're smaller, but don't count on those. Don't expect that we're going to get help from the government. You know, they got the rules, they're going to push the rules. So one organization in particular is Dublin San Ramon. They were really worried about all their vehicles that they're trying to replace. And so they made a big chart explaining like, well, this is what we have right now. And the funny thing, they didn't even have everything available. Another agency popped up and said, well, did you know that there's a Ford F-150 replacement that's also electric, but it's like $250,000. And everybody was just scoffing at that price because we can't afford that type of stuff. So it's very much in the top and people are working on it, but people are very aware of this. And I know we are too. We just need to understand all the details as it applies to a small agency like us. Understanding greenhouse gases when it comes to us, again, pushing electrical production. Understanding that if we move to producing more greenhouse gases, some is going to slip out from the digestion system. That just happens. If you update the infrastructure, if you put in power generation, it will remove that slippage of the methane and be able to produce energy. So you become a contributor to the grid instead of just using what's there. And it's something that we really should be paying attention to. Another thing that they talked about for looking for savings, they said decreasing the I&I, which is the inflow and infiltration. All us board members know that, but a lot of people from the public may not. During wet weather, because there are cracks in the pipes, a lot of water will get into the sewer pipes and then come to our plant. Our normal flow during a dry day is about $1.3 million gallons. During a wet weather event, we can get up to 10 million gallons. And when we had the flood, we were at 15 million gallons before we started flooding, or 12 million. Yeah, we were 17. So we had a lot of water coming in. And so for us, if that could be fixed, oh my goodness, that'd be so helpful for us. Again, it costs money. I mean, everything costs money. That's just how it is, unfortunately. But there is funding. And that, again, this is a theme that I keep hearing. There's funding. Look for it. It can help you. Next, please. So more on greenhouse gas. This is a huge topic. These are the most important reductions that we can do. I know this sounds kind of odd, but they have the unit of MTCO2e, which is metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalents. So, for example, if you look at methane gas, 1 kilogram of methane gas as emitted, it can be expressed as 29.8 kilograms of carbon dioxide emitted. So that's a huge difference, 29 to 1. That means we really need to work on our methane, and we're really good about that. However, we have a lot of food waste going to landfill. That landfill is the number 3 producer of methane behind cows, which is very interesting. But anyways, it's showing lots of different ways that we can remove CO2 equivalents from our system. Next, please. And then this was also the state bill where we cannot put organic waste. We're just reducing it. Cal Recycle, organization that helps wastewater treatment and other groups, it's talking about grants and fundings. The key element is remove methane gas from the environment. So no longer throwing away organic waste in the landfills. Just like I said, number 3 emitter behind cows. Give to our anaerobic digester, produce methane gas. Again, this is a theme. It was a very strong theme in the industry or in the conference this last in April. Currently, we produce Class B biosolvent, and we cannot put that into the landfill. Eventually, we're still underneath whatever laws that are there. Again, we have to figure out all the details with the council, but eventually, it's going to hit us. And so when it does, we've got to be able to find an alternative. Thanks. CASA, which is the organization I talked about earlier, they talk about the state mandates and the goals. I mean, these are all out and about. Everybody can look them up and see them. However, they do want this healthy soils initiative, and that's a very interesting thing. We want to be able to have a sustainable agriculture for future generations. One interesting thing is we've been losing phosphate a lot of phosphate. Phosphate's a key element for growth in plants and humans also. It's part of our ATP, our DNA. It's very important stuff. So by doing this biosolids that we use in the digester and putting it to land application for farming, not only is the farming better, but you're getting phosphate back into your system. And that's really important. So the conclusions that I brought from this were that the CWA is a great conference and experience for any professional. There are learning opportunities at all levels. You get to collaborate and network with many people from different facilities. You can see product demonstration explanations, and you're exposed to unique sides of the industry that you wouldn't be normally just from where you are. We ought to be proactive in moving forward on the mandates coming down from the state, looking for grants and funding now to expand our treatment process to healthy environment. SAM cannot get grants due to the JPA status, but member agencies can do so on our behalf. People who have experience with grants ought to step up and help us in the community. It will cost the ratepayers more if we wait. Possible fines or lawsuits for non-compliance, increased prices due to inflation, lost money savings due to non-updated lower efficiency treatment process. And that is it. Are there any questions?
I just wanted to make it clear that the power that Sam and everybody else around us uses comes from Peninsula Clean Energy. It's 100% greenhouse gas free. No natural gas is involved in the generation of that power. So it's a step in the right direction. I think the public should be aware of that. Thanks.
I was not. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe you're not the person to ask this, but you just learned a lot about it, so I'll ask. The two northern districts are served by Recology at the coast. We, according to the state rules 1383, you have to separate out your compostables from your trash. And it's my understanding that Recology composts all that stuff. And I haven't been to any of their composters, but I have been to a couple of other ones, and they were open air, huge piles being composted, and their methane doesn't go anywhere but straight up. Was that brought up? I mean, it's just, you're getting rid of or reusing the biological, the compostable stuff, and you can use it on soil, and it's great. But it I think it probably creates more per acre than cows.
Well, I don't have all the details like that. However, they did talk quite a bit about using food waste in the organic component to your digesters. And so we have anaerobic digesters. They can receive the food waste, and then they can produce more biogas from it, which once you have all your infrastructure in place, you can become an energy positive company. So there is a possibility for it. If that's what Recology is doing, I can't speak to that. However, I do know that if we put the infrastructure in, we have more energy.
So that might change where compostables go from each household.
So, for example, Silicon Valley Clean Water, they have a partnership with Recology where they take garbage that has not been separated and they send it into a big tank that has a huge mixer, and it essentially chops and mixes everything. Then they put it up into a fine filter where all the garbage is removed and the organics are separated from it. The organics go into the digester, and you can see the spike of gas happen within an hour. It's pretty amazing. I was able to work on that project and help start it up. And so that was a really neat experience for me.
Well, I know we have a member of the public who would just say, I want to commend Sam for sending you and for you for taking in so much from this conference. I think these are great ideas and look forward to seeing them move forward, hopefully. I agree with the whole, it was interesting, one of your earlier slides said that the funding could go to JPAs.
Yes, ma'am.
So, but then it turns out, yeah, I guess something to find out why we can't do it.
With grants, that's my understanding is that grants we're not allowed to have. However, the member agencies are able to get grants for us if it's towards the wastewater industry.
But the JPAs could get the loans.
Correct. So the loans we are very much applicable for. And there's several agencies that are helping to look for that.
Yes. Okay. Great. Dieguez from the MCC.
Aaron, that was such a massively excellent presentation that I want to copy the slides, and they're not posted on the website. Not only that, I want a copy or links to the source material that you're summarizing in those slides. That's important stuff. And as a minor byproduct of all the other benefits, it might help solve the problem where our landfill is due to expire in the early 2030s. If we can cut back on all this composting that's going there, not only get energy out of it, but extend the life of that thing. So thanks very much. And let me know how I can get copies of all that material.
Well, unfortunately, I won't be able to provide all the copies there. It was all handwritten notes. And that's what's really good about going to these conferences is that you're able to really talk with the people individually. And if they do have some information, you can get it. But unfortunately, I did not get that. I just took notes.
But your presentation will be on the website.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
any further questions?
And there were some links in that.
There were a couple, but not many.
Well, a good use of your time and Sam's. Anything else? Anyone else? All right. Thank you so much.
Very well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Excuse me, sorry.
Thank you.
Anything else for general manager's report?
No, that's all I had. Nothing else from my side.
Attorney's report?
Nothing for me.
Director's report? Anybody? All right. Topics for future board considerations? Nothing? All right. Well, then I guess we will close this meeting and go to closed session.
Yeah, we would need a break so that they can, CCT can, all the stuff.